My name is Caio, C-A-I-O, and I'm going to talk about QML. Did any of you heard about QML and declarative UI? Some of you. Well, I'm a developer at INDT. Some of you know INDT. It's a research institute from Nokia in Brazil. We work with open source, and our stream, OpenBoss, has worked with the Qt Kinetic project, doing the animation framework, helping out the Qt guys. Qt WebKit, Plasma Netbook, Series 60 demos that were released in the last November, if I recall correctly. And currently, we are working with widgets and QML together with Qt developers. In the KDE side, what I did was to send a patch for Queen. And it's little, but at least it's something. But in the Plasma Netbook, which is an effort with KDE project, we have Arthur and Adenilson and other guys working together. Okay, what is QML? QML is a language to describe trees of objects and properties. It's really that simple. It shouldn't be hard to understand that. So I put an example. You have an item, which is an object, and it has two properties, property A with the value 100 and property B with the same value, and another property which has a list as a value. So the property children has a list of two new objects. For those who know programming, it's easy to understand. It looks like a little bit with JSON, which is the data representation language based on JavaScript. And that's it. That's QML. And that's some syntax sugar, because we want to represent trees of objects. So instead of saying, okay, children is a list of two new objects, you just say, okay, you have these two new objects nested there. A feature of QML is the ability to embed ECMAScript, which is JavaScript, another name for JavaScript, code inside those three descriptions. So you can say that property B is property A plus another value. And this is an ECMAScript expression. You can have a property called onSomeEvent, which has a piece of code in ECMAScript as well. Okay. Now the big thing about this. What people in Qt Declarative UI project are doing is use QML to describe user interfaces. This looks similar. This looks like what we used to have in, do you guys have heard of Enlightenment? The window manager, E17. We had a technology called Edge, and I think last year we ported that to Qt, and it was the same idea, describing user interfaces using a declarative language. So in this project, they choose QML, that simple language that we saw, to describe user interface. You can see a rectangle, which has an identification, a width, height, a color, and a nested object. So this text is a child object from the rectangle, and it has other properties. So this is declarative UI using QML. In the language, we also have features to enable better user interfaces like animations, effects. We also have when I say we, I'm talking about the declarative UI, okay? So there are special objects like mouse region that you can say, okay, this object has a hit area, and on some event, he's going to execute some piece of code. And people usually talk in blogs and etc. They say QML, but what they are meant to say is declarative UI using QML. Okay, so first, before I continue, I will show a little bit of what people are doing. Okay, this is a very small example of a QML. I'll show the source code, but just to see, you have a text object, and this text object also has a mouse region object which triggers a function that changes some properties of the text. It's really very simple. So for a more complex example, okay, it's a game. This is part of Qt code in the declarative UI branch. So it's a simple game with some effects. All of this is done using QML and ECMAScript, which is JavaScript. So that's a simple game. Okay. One way to understand what is this declarative UI thing is to compare to other existing stuff. Like I said, I did the comparison with Edge, which is the declarative language used to build the interfaces for Enlightenment. You can also compare QML with HTML plus CSS. When doing web applications, the interface you use HTML and CSS. The idea is similar, but you are going to use QML to do the interface. Also, if you think of Qt World, you can remember that Qt Designer generates a .ui file, which represents a tree of objects that's your interface using normal Q widgets. Okay, that's it. So, are you guys understanding what I'm talking about? So, am I good to that? Great. So, where can we use that? One obvious place to use is with canvas-based applications. When I say canvas-based, for the Qt world, that means applications that are using QGraphics view. But also I'm thinking about applications for mobile devices. At INDT, we have done a few applications like Canola or the Series 60 demos, like the weather demo. I'm not sure if you saw that. And they kind of not fit very well with the standard Q widgets. The idea of you have forms and put your widgets on very strict layouts. So that's this kind of application that I'm talking about. One good example in the KDE world is the KDM, which is the display login manager, right? And it's a good example because there's nothing else in the interface, just you have to log in. And they did a prototype using QML. Another use is to do small applications. For small applications, I mean like plasmoids. people always talk about, oh, we must make it easier for creating plasmoids, applets for your desktop. And one good way to do that is allow those plasmoids to be done in JavaScript or in HTML plus JavaScript. And one possibility is do them in QML. Of course, the logic is going to be in the ECMAScript part. Another use case very nice for QML is the idea of making software more, I just wrote teamability, but make the teams not only about changing the images and the colors, but changing everything. This sounds like, oh, what's that? But if you guys remember yesterday talks about, oh, it's difficult to deal with different resolutions for the same application. You have one application that fits well for the desktop, but doesn't fit very well in the netbook, or doesn't fit very well in the mobile world. And QML would help you to have the same software, but changing only the interface bits. It's a tool to help you with that. And for us at INDT is also a very good tool to bring the designers more in touch with the developers. We usually have design people doing mockups in Flash, Adobe Flash, and QML provides a very similar environment, so those mockups could be done already in Qt. A little comment that I want to add to this talk about designers is that many times we have different roles that designers play during the development, and at our company we have like graphics guys which do just the graphics part, and usability designers. I just added 2 examples from KDE so you understand, but we also have people that do the Flash mockups. We call interaction designer or something like that. What they do is gather the ideas from the other designers and put into a non-functional, in the sense that it will not work, the backend will not work, but a mockup, a Flash application that will look like and work like, animate like the other designers expected. This is an intermediate step when designing a new product, and these Flash mockups go to the developers so they can see, oh, it's like that you guys want. And QML can help drop Adobe Flash and use directly Qt and bring together developers and designers. One good thing is that once the interaction designer could do something, some special effect in QML, the developers can use it and know that it will work. So that's it. That's a small. So another features of the Declarative UI project, the project is still ongoing, probably to be released in Qt 4.7, but some of these features are already there, like network transparency, so you can load pieces of interface from a server, a web server, instead of loading local files. Also a very good interaction with C++. You can create your own objects and export them to be used in QML. Also, you can, in your C++ application, pick up pieces of QML and use it in your own canvas. Also, another feature is the developers are implementing HTML5 APIs, like local storage, and I'm not sure if they're working with offline yet, but the point is they're trying to create an environment that will be as good to developing applications as is HTML, as will be HTML5. So kind of a competition for web apps. One last point, well, not the last, but there's many meanings for the words QML, and I think that you can understand the difference between them, and when someone blogs about it, you can sort of understand what's going on. The first is the simple idea that it's a language to describe trees of objects. But since we are in the context of declarative UI, it's a language to describe the user interface of an application. And at this level, QML is very efficient, and it's, for example, it's doing the same job as Edge for Enlightenment did. But you can also think of QML as a tool for building small applications. Like, since it has local storage, scripting support, and etc., all your code could be inside a QML file or a set of QML files and the logic in ECMAScript. Assuming that you have a software like this QML viewer that will load the files. If you remember the analogy, this is like the viewing QML as a new HTML plus CSS. So this QML viewer is like a browser. QML is good for both describing the applications and also doing entire small applications. Well, I'm not sure if I go to the next slide. Okay. Which brings up to a good question is, well, so the Qt guys are proposing this new way of doing interfaces. What about the widgets? Is there a difference? How do we do things still in C++, etc.? If you remember, or if you heard about Andres from Qt Software did a talk in Gran Canaria Desktop Summit last year talking about widgets, and one of the conclusions of the talk is that the existing widgets were too big and you had to try to work with smaller primitives, smaller parts, and that's what QML do. It provides simple primitives to build the UI, and for the kind of rich and fancy UI that we are used to do at INDT and other companies also do, this is a nice base point, a nice starting point. But also QML provides the ability to abstract complex components. You can get a very complex part of the interface and make it in a box and use it in another interface. So in the end, it's not a matter of widgets are dying, but we are changing the way that widgets are going to be built. Well, the project is being developed at qtguitars.org, so it's in the open, expected to be released with Qt 4.7, but let's see what happens. There's more information on labsqt.nokia.com. So, that's it. Any questions?
In your slides, you listed a couple of things that QML will be good for, particularly writing app UIs for like mobile devices. In addition, you also mentioned widgets. Yeah. Why? And then you say small applications entirely in QML. Why not write not small applications entirely in QML?
Okay, this is a discussion that we have, that for big applications, really big applications, you still want to use C++ and use QML at the interface level. That's why in the other slide, I try to make clear that it both can be used only for interface level and for doing applications. So you can still do a big application, but probably you're going to have parts in C++, so
how do you talk to this QML code from like C++ side of things?
okay.
You know, like can you interact with it easily?
Yes, that's a there is a very good integration. In talking about code, you create an QML engine object and say to it, please load that file and give me the object.
So QML is almost kind of like a replacement for UI files.
That's it. But what a difference is that it's not trying to do exactly the same stuff that the UI file did. So there's not backwards compatibility.
I was thinking, this QML engine, this sounds like a lot like the same kind of interaction between the JavaScript and WebKit JavaScript engine and Qt object. Does it use the same concept as exporting objects via their meta object?
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
same concept, I imagine.
So you can have C++ objects exported inside the QML scope, so the snippets of JavaScript, ECMAScript could use it. It's the same idea.
Yeah. Does the other way? No.
The other way is like
It's possible too, but
you can, in C++, try to access specific objects inside the QML.
But could you, like, for example, this little animation you had before, I imagine, so there are like event handlers in JavaScript or ECMAScript, which will, when you click on that text, which will make it animate and stuff. Would you be able to trigger that from the C++ side?
I think so.
You think?
So like you're saying that you could create and have it be like the UI layer for even the advanced applications, but at the same time it only provides really primitive shapes to work with. It doesn't really provide a toolkit.
Okay, two things that I think will answer your question. The first one is that probably you will be able to use existing Qt widgets inside QML. So, okay, you are in the same level. But another important thing is that the idea that you can create abstractions inside QML. So, if your designer come up with a pattern of, oh, we have all the time this kind of specific button, you can abstract that and use it like my special button. And use it like that instead of rebuilding it all the time.
So maybe in a future, so I mean it's also kind of like, you know, Qute's job is to make that sort of stuff for us. I don't know, like maybe
Okay.
a set of standard, more advanced.
Yes, that's a big discussion. Like,
do you remember some time ago on Trotec Labs, Marius did a post about widgets next generation. There was this post.
Yeah.
Mainly, this project is to think about this issue, exactly this issue. Yeah, are we going to port all the necessary widgets to QML so you already have them, or are we doing new ones? We are exactly at this discussion right now. QML already provides some widgets like clickable lists and this kind of stuff that only canvas-based applications are used to use. So this is an ongoing discussion about how are we going to deal with this problem. But yeah, we're aware of it.
Basically, you can already export the key graphics widget in the
Yeah,
QML, and playground there is
exactly.
system to work platform widgets.
Yeah, so right now you can export any graphics widget to QML. And talking about models, if you think about model view controller, any Q object is exportable to QML, so you can export models pretty easily too.
What about layouts? Is that completely dropped or?
that's a very nice question because I was part of the team that worked on anchor layouts, and we kind of dive in the layout thing. Right now, what you have is that you can use, remember the example that property A has the value of property B plus 200? You can use that kind of property binding to do layouting. Besides of that, the QML declarative UI part has an idea of anchors, like that is kind of similar of what we had in anchor layout for the graphics widgets. And for most of the cases, this kind of anchor thing of the declarative UI is enough. And for more complex layouts, that's exactly what we are going to talk about in the next week with people from the Widgets Next Generation project. It's like, for some of the people involved in declarative UI, what they have now is enough. And I have the same feeling like, oh man, but we are going to build everything from scratch. And in most applications, at least in the mobile world, that's what you're going to do anyway. So I think that is the feeling that those guys have. But we still want to have this technology used in the desktop, so where the look and feel consistency is very important. So, well.
There's this anchor type of layout that is so far available.
Yeah, it's not a layout, are the properties of the object, so you can say like the top of this object is aligned to the top of that object with a margin of 20 pixels. Okay. Well, I think that's, any more questions? Well, that's it. Thank you guys.
Thank you.